Here in Miami, it's the hurricane season.
Although it may not look that way right now. One of the things that us British are famous for is being obsessed with the weather. But it's the conditions in financial markets that have provided the testing backdrop to our conference here. Our opening keynote speaker, Robert Wescott, certainly saw a few storms in his time as an advisor to President Clinton. So are the squalls we've seen in recent days just weather, a temporary system that will blow across the market and disappear? Or is this part of a more fundamental change in climate?
I think the economy is healing. I think 2015 should be the best year since 2006. This is the 3% threshold. I think the Fed may face pressure to raise rates sooner than the markets expect. We're definitely seeing a weather front moving across. There's no question about that. When you see markets down hundreds of points in a day and 30 points coming off the U.S. 10-year bond in a day or in 48 hours, clearly we have a major weather event going on. We also have general climate change going on in the world financial markets. And some countries really are susceptible to secular stagnation, and I worry a lot about them over the next 20 years. Others are not as susceptible to secular stagnation. They have more dynamic demographics, they have more demographic innovation and entrepreneurial spirits and so on. And I think those are going to be much less susceptible to secular stagnation. So we have to pay attention to both weather, but also climate, and both are changeable.
Westcott is basing his forecasts on his own analysis of economic indicators. But Zachary Karabell, our second speaker, believes we should be looking at different indicators altogether.
All these numbers come out of the crucible of the Great Depression. So 1929 hits both Europe and the United States, and evidently things are bad. Using these numbers as absolute guides as to how we think interest rates are going to perform or anything like that is a little as if I handed you a 1950s roadmap to get from Miami to Jacksonville. Some of the roads might have been there, but before the interstate highway system in the US, a lot of them weren't. That map might get you to where you're going, but it would also likely get you lost. I think the world is too complicated to rely on a tiny toolkit of big numbers that are just loose averages. But what we all can do is we can just start with the question. What question are you trying to answer? If you're an individual, should I buy this home or not? If you're a company, should I undertake this capital spending or not? If you're an investor, where are my opportunities and where are my risks? Once you start with the question, we all have massive data at our fingertips, far more than we ever did, far more easily retrievable than it ever has been. And I think in that sense, if you start with the question and then you look for the numbers and the data that help illuminate it, your ability to find that information, to analyze it, to parse it, to crunch it, quantitative and qualitatively, has been unleashed by the very technology tools that are unleashing everything else, and allow us to create the map that we need, the bespoke indicators and numbers that we need to answer the questions specifically that we have.
If you want a completely different way of looking at the world, the picture that Neil Harbison sees is just about as unconventional as you could possibly imagine.
We are slowly losing this fear of union. I think the 20th century was very, very harmful to this vision of uniting humans and technology. There's lots of comics, films, and books that talk about the dangers of this union, but I believe that this fear is slowly going away. So I believe that we will slowly get inspired by senses that already exist in nature, and we'll start applying these senses to our body through new body parts or new unions between softwares and brains.
Here, at this time of year, storm clouds can form quickly and seemingly out of nowhere. But this city is used to its weather, and its people know how to respond. Now, over the last couple of days, you'll have heard a lot of new investment ideas, and our aim is to help you find the strategies that you need to cope with any kind of market weather.
Thank you.